Archives of Prasar Bharati presents the timeless treasure of golden era.
Hello and welcome to Living on the Edge. In Asia, there is a growing trend towards population concentration in primary cities. Experts have ominously predicted that the Asian urban population will rise to 1.3 billion by 2000, a twofold increase over what it was in 1980. Increased urbanization often implies lack of sanitation and water, shrinking space, congestion, and air and water pollution. This week, Living on the Edge examines the impact of pollution in a city that has acquired international renown but is in danger of losing it. We also analyze the efforts to green the Aravallis that are proving remarkably successful, see if earthquake technology has come of age in Uttarkashi, and travel to the United States to see how cheetahs are being bred in captivity. But we begin with a city that has been the destination of millions for centuries. The home of an architectural wonder, inspirational for its beauty and unrivaled in its charm, this city has had to bear the brunt of limitless pollution from a variety of sources. Ironically, it was only when pollution threatened to destroy an age-old monument that the city became the focus of remedial action. If you still haven't guessed the name of the city or the monument, let Priya Somaya fill you in.
For most tourists, a trip to India is incomplete without a visit to the Taj, one of the 7 wonders of the world. Each day, over 25,000 tourists visit this splendid marble mausoleum, and to cater to foreigners, local guides have become functional linguists, conversant in French, Spanish, German, and even Japanese. Recently, in addition to the usual questions about the history and architecture of the Mughal period, an anxious query is often heard.
Foreign tourists coming into India, they do their homework pretty well. They read a lot about Taj, definitely because Taj is one of the major monuments which they come to visit in this country. And they are definitely aware of the fact that Taj is being polluted.
पहले सुना है वाइट था, अब काला पड़ गया है, तो हम लोग उनको बताते हैं कि हाँ पहले तो था इतना मतलब काला नहीं था. जो प्रदूषण जो है, धुआं वगैरह जो आता है, उससे काला पड़ चुका है, ये बात सही है.
Whether it's the pollution from over 1,700 industries in the vicinity, or the presence of cremation grounds nearby, or the sheer impact of time, or all these factors, it is evident that the 350-year-old monument is being increasingly degraded. And this is borne out by the discovery of a research institute that suspended matter in the industrial zone near the Taj was over 500 milligrams per cubic meter. If that doesn't mean anything, let's just say that it is 2.5 times the permissible limit. Moreover, it has been found that soot and sulfur dioxide from nearby industries reacts with moisture, settling on the Taj and surrounding monuments in a film of sulfuric acid and grime. This is what archaeologists call marble cancer. It turns the marble yellow and encourages fungal growth. However, officials of the Archaeological Survey of India deny that there is any cause for alarm.
These are the routine problems of any monuments, not particular to Taj, due to climatic conditions and atmospheric pollutants. So we have not noticed anything of a serious nature in the Taj Mahal.
पहले जो इसका बिल्डिंग था ना, बैक साइड में जो आप देख रहे हैं ना पीछे, एकदम वाइट था. तो प्रदूषण के मारे जो धुआं वगैरह जो आता है इसके डिटेल बैक साइड में काफ़ी फ़र्क पड़ा है.
Chemical cleaning is done wherever stains are noticed, which are again things which happen to old monuments.
पहले 10 साल पहले ऐसा नहीं था, अब कुछ देखने में पीला-पीला महसूस होता है.
In a recent ruling, the Supreme Court has ordered the closure of hundreds of cast iron foundries in the area. Owners of offending industries, however, insist that they are not to blame.
We don't agree that we are polluting. Even if we are polluting, our contribution is so negligible that we are not at all affecting Taj and other humans of Agra.
Foundries have requested to prove it beyond any doubt that foundries are polluting. And if we are polluting, to what extent? That has never been established so far.
Despite these protestations, it is clear that pollution control was never really a priority. It is only now that owners have installed pollution control equipment. Strangely enough, the whole question of the dangers of pollution was first discussed nearly 20 years ago when the Mathura refinery was built. Despite criticism, the government went ahead with its setting up. However, the government did designate an area around the Taj where no new industries were to be set up, but guidelines were flouted. Today, many believe that together with the foundries and the glass factories in Firozabad, the refinery is also one of the largest polluters in the region.
As a matter of fact, our emissions are only to the tune of 500 to 700 kg per hour. But we are emitting this quantity of SO2 at Mathura refinery, whereas the Taj is located almost 40 to 45 kilometers away from here.
Curiously though, each of the alleged offending parties claim they are being made the scapegoats and absolve themselves of the blame.
This, my reaction will be that Mathura refinery is being made the scapegoat.
Yes, definitely foundries are being made scapegoat on account of ineffectiveness or disinterestedness of the government.
फाउंड्री की वजह से फिरोजाबाद को बकरी का बला बनाया गया है, वरना फिरोजाबाद में तो कोई पॉल्यूशन होता ही नहीं है, और होता है तो इतनी मात्रा है जो गवर्नमेंट का मापदंड है उससे कम होता है.
Passing the buck is not going to save the Taj. What is at stake is not only the monument, but also the livelihood of thousands of people who live and work around it. This is a problem that needs to be addressed too.
I think more than 1,000 units of Agra Trapezium, excluding Firozabad, they will be affected. And when 1,000 units will be affected, you can just think in a broad spectrum, more than 5 lakhs peoples of Agra will be affected.
हमारे यहाँ ताज बना रहे तो हमें कोई परेशानी नहीं, ताज हट जाए तो हमें कोई परेशानी नहीं, हमें तो रोटी रोजी का सवाल है.
It is perceptions such as these that have prompted the Supreme Court to order a feasibility study on the use of natural gas for the refinery and other industries.
नेचुरल गैस अगर मिल जाए तो बहुत ही अच्छा है, क्योंकि नेचुरल गैस मिल जाएगा तो जो थोड़ा बहुत पॉल्यूशन हो रहा है, पॉल्यूशन कंट्रोल सिस्टम लगाना पड़ा है, उसकी ज़रूरत ही नहीं है. नेचुरल गैस मिल जाए, हम लोगों को 24 आवर्स पावर सप्लाई मिल जाए. आगरा में इतना जनरेटर चलता है, हर दुकान में, हर वर्कशॉप में, हर घर में वो जनरेटर लगना बंद हो गया. गवर्नमेंट के ऑफिस में जनरेटर्स लगे हुए हैं.
Equally important is the need to develop Agra and its environs, as it is one of the foremost tourist cities in the world, which draws lakhs of people each year. And yet today it presents a picture of organized chaos, an erratic power supply, overwhelming vehicular pollution, and unplanned development. Though these are problems shared by many Indian cities, the glory and the unrivaled beauty of the Taj is unique to Agra and India, and indeed to the whole world. And that's why urgent remedial action is called for.
As they rightly call it, it's a perfect example of love. Everybody wants to come again and again to see this thing. I've been here many number of times, but we still find something different in Taj every time we look at it. I wouldn't want it to be polluted myself. I wouldn't want to see a black Taj Mahal here.
You're just incredibly lucky to have this beautiful building in the country and in this city, and I think it would be a great shame if it wasn't here forever, basically. Too many beautiful things are already destroyed by man, and I hope, you know, my children, my grandchildren come and see this.
Still to come, the greening of the Aravallis, a return to roots in Uttarkashi, and captive cheetah breeding in the United States. Just halfway through a unique experiment that began in Haryana in 1990, Over 40% of a 33,000 hectare area of panchayat lands in the Aravallis is already regenerating. And perhaps the most endearing aspect of the project is the complete involvement of the people who are already reaping the benefits of conservation. Gauri Maini reports using an aging mountain as a narrator.
Do you know that mountains that look formidable and invincible are actually fragile? This is my story. The story of a once majestic range which reigned supreme for hundreds of years, but is now worn out by the play of wind, nature, and of course, man. With people settling in large numbers, their cattle grazing unrestrictedly, and trees being cut indiscriminately, I moved steadily towards my doom.
आज से 15-20 साल पहले ये पहाड़ बिल्कुल हरा भरा था। इन लोगों को इन पेड़ पौधों के फायदे नुकसान के बारे में कोई ज्ञान तो था नहीं और इनने अज्ञानता में इस पहाड़ को जो है नष्ट कर दिया।
Species that you see here is dhok, a majestic tree around 10 to 15 meters high. Today it is reduced to this stage because of persistence, browsing and cutting by the people. The area where I'm sitting was once well wooded with good stands of these trees. And what you see today is a grotesque and extremely gnarled vegetation which is at least 30 to 40 years old. But to a layman or to anybody else, you can never believe that this is a tree.
Taken for granted and abused, my ruin was imminent. I waited for the inevitable. But the inevitable didn't happen. The forest department came to my rescue. And do you know what? They not only saved me from the axe, but triggered off an entire conservation movement.
वो हमारे पास आए और उन्होंने हमसे ये कहा कि हमारी सरकार की जो है ये स्कीमें हैं। हमने उस कमी को पहले ही महसूस किया, तो इसलिए हमने इस पहाड़ को रेजुलेशन पंचायत की तरफ से कर है नहीं और ये पहाड़ जो है वो सरकार को दे दिया।
We are going to work here for 4 or 5 years, do the plantation and the rehabilitation work. Thereafter, the land is going to revert back to the panchayat. But until we involve the people really in it, it's going to come back to this stage again. So you see, we have really no choice but to get the people along with us.
And so the people went ahead with government plans. Their joint efforts proved remarkably productive, increasing income, providing employment and regenerating the land.
अरावली खुली है, यासु बहुत फायदा हुआ है, काफ़ी मेहनत भी ना मिली हमें और अब काफ़ी मेहनत होगी, पैसा भी हमारे पास होगा।
पिछले साल नर्सरी लगाई थी, उसमें हमको अरावली वाले ने ज़मीन लेके दी थी, बोर लगाया था, फिर उसके बाद में ये बेड बनाए थे, उसके बाद थैली दी, थैली के बाद मिट्टी भर के उसमें थैलियों में पैक करी थी, फिर उसके बाद बीज लगाया हमने।
जब बड़ा हो जाता है, जब इतना बड़ा हो जाता है, पहाड़ में लगता है वो पौधा। ये पेड़ लगाना में हम लोग फ़ायदा ही फ़ायदा है, इसका चारा भी बन जाता है, हमें चारा मिलता है और बेर वेर भी लगता है और टेंट वाटन का हम अचार गिरता टेंट लगता है और लकड़ी भी मिलती है, घास भी होती है ढोरन लोग।
जब से जंगलात वाला ने घास लगाई है, हम लोग यासु बहुत फ़ायदा हुआ है। जब हम 4 घंटा में आवे हैं, अब हम 2 घंटा में देर आ जाओ।
The villagers seem happy. And why not? Their efforts have been translated into tangible material benefits that seem to be ever increasing.
पिछले साल की बचत में से हमने 20,000 रुपये तो बैंक में जमा कर दिए हैं और उसमें से टीवी भी ली है, फ्रिज भी लिया है, कूलर भी लिया है और भी बच्चे को लत्ता कपड़ा पूरी साल भर का राशन पानी भी करा है।
और अब हमको रोजगार मिल रहा है तो हर वक्त पैसा हाथ में रहता है। और फिर ऐसी बात है कि अपने मकान बना ले, चाहे अपने दूध पीन लो, भैंस खरीद ले, चाहे अपने कर्जा पानी तोड़ दो और अपने कुछ। और जब नौकरी नहीं तो हम कहा करते, हम सूती आलू बहुत अच्छी बचत होती।
एक तो मजदूरी मिल रही है हमारे लोगों को, गरीब आदमी जो है। दूसरी ये है कि जो पेड़ पौधा लगाए जा रहे हैं, ईंधन भी हमें मिलेगा इनसे। पेड़ पौधा जब पड़ जाएगा, बड़ा हो जाएगा, ईंधन भी हमें मिलेगा, हमें ही फायदा है उससे।
और आप खुद हम मालिक हो जाते हैं वाकई, तो आप हम काम करते हैं और बहुत अच्छी सहूलत से काम करते हैं।
The ways of people are strange. Today they reap the fruits of conservation. And yet, when the program first began, they almost sabotaged it in their haste for the spoils.
When we initially sowed an area, and the first flush of grass came, people immediately started taking it off. They even started uprooting it because they thought it was first come, first served. Then we started telling them that it takes time. The rooting should be allowed, the grass should seed.
बाहर से आया जब उन्होंने बताया, जब और हम सीख गए और फिर अब हम आप लगाने लग गए। जब
इस प्लांटेशन के चारों तरफ कोई फेंसिंग नहीं है, फिर भी जो है गाय बकरी भैंस इस प्लांटेशन के अंदर नुकसान नहीं करती या चरने के लिए नहीं आती। लोगों में इतनी जागरूकता आ रही हुई है कि वो पहले से ही अपनी गाय बकरी भैंस का नुकसान नहीं होने देते, उसके बाद में ना कोई इसकी कटाई करते।
Although credit goes to the Forest Department for their flexible, almost experimental approach that has won the support of the community, I am a little worried. What will happen when government intervention ends? Will the people continue regenerative efforts when the land reverts to the panchayat? Or will the force of pre-conservation habits prevail?
देहात में तो अब भी जो है 90% अनपढ़ ही मिलेंगे। तो ये है कि मेरा पेट भरना चाहिए, चाहे मतलब पहाड़ उजड़े या खेत उजड़े कुछ भी हो, और भूखा आदमी करेगा क्या? वो तो धंधा तो करेगा।
There is always a danger that once the government intervention or some kind of intervention that we are doing, our presence is removed, then the situation may revert back to the bad state before.
If the people fail to see in conservation and environmental rejuvenation an inexhaustible source of income, the efforts of the preceding years will end the day the government withdraws. And the battered mountains you see today will be reduced to rubble. Mountains, after all, though seemingly invincible, are very fragile. I only hope conservation carries the day.
नहीं हम काटने देंगे, ना आप लोग भग गए तो हम काट लेंगे, नहीं काटेंगे हम लोग, फायदा नहीं है फिर काटना में। हम कर देंगे फिर हम कहाँ दुबकेंगे, कहाँ हम लोग चारों मिलेगो, कहाँ हमारे बच्चे इनको पालेंगे।
इसका जो नुकसान जो ये पहले हरा भरा था और जब इसको उजाड़ा गया, इसका नुकसान जो गाँवों ने देख लिया है। अगर हम इसकी रक्षा नहीं करेंगे तो फिर जिएंगे किस तरह? जीने के लिए हमको सब कुछ करना पड़ेगा।
Still to come, a return to roots in Uttarkashi and captive cheetah breeding in America. The death and destruction that followed the Uttarkashi earthquake in '91 and the Latur earthquake in '93 fueled research into new forms of housing that are both cheap and safe in seismic zones. Living on the Edge trekked to remote Aravalli villages to file this report on new forms of construction. Strangely enough, Sunil Manoharan found that villagers have reverted to old house building techniques. After all, it was only the really old buildings that survived the '91 quake.
2 days before our camera crew arrived, another tremor shook Uttarkashi. No one was hurt, but it was another worrying reminder of the seismic menace hanging over Garhwal. The remains of shattered houses are testimony to the destruction that followed the 91 quake. Even now, recurrent landslides destroy paths and roads.
भय तो है साहब, क्योंकि रास्ता हमारा बहुत विकट है। वो जो चट्टान जो है वो सिर के ऊपर है, रास्ते हो गए नीचे और चट्टान हो गए ऊपर, तो वहाँ से गांव से जो है यहीं तक जो है खतरा ही खतरा है।
ये तो जब बारिश होती है तो पूरी जगह जहाँ भूकंप से टूटा हुआ है, ये जो है हर समय जो है बहता जाता है, पत्थर आते जाते हैं और रास्ता जो है टूटता जाता है, कई बार बना दिया है।
Prompt government aid and the work of voluntary agencies after the earthquake ensured construction of a large number of shelters. This is borne out by the sheet metal structures that dot the landscape. But unfortunately, many of the new houses constructed by the voluntary agencies turned out to be inappropriate to the needs of the inhabitants. Not only are the tin hutments much smaller than the ones they were used to, but the new homes are hot in summer and cold in winter.
उसको रखने तो यहाँ नहीं होता है इसमें तो खाली सोने के अलावा है कुछ नहीं है। किचन के लिए इसमें जो है वो अलग से जो है इसमें कोई प्रबंध नहीं है, खाली सोने लायक है।
Because the new constructions have these drawbacks, local masons have changed their building techniques. Paradoxically, they're using building material that has been the norm for the older Garhwali houses.
पहले में ऐसा था कि कोई पत्थर गोल साइज के थे, अब ऐसे हैं कि चपटे चपटे पत्थर आ रहे हैं। पहले कोई गोल थे तो भूकंप आने से जो है हिले और उससे जो है ज़्यादा मकानों को क्षति पहुंची। अब हम जो है चपटे चपटे साइज के लगा रहे हैं।
In fact, it was the traditional structures that actually survived the 91 earthquake, which measured 6.3 on the Richter scale. Buildings over 100 years old survived despite having heavy stone walls. The secret apparently is an interlocking wooden framework.
भूकंप में जो घर बचे थे उन घरों में ज़्यादातर लकड़ियां यूज़ की गई थी। वो काफ़ी पुराने बने हुए हैं, आज से करीबन 50 साल पुराने भी कुछ ऐसे मकान हैं, 50 साल 100 साल पुराने हैं, लेकिन अभी भी वो सुरक्षित बचे हुए हैं।
Today, new houses are being built using old techniques, but more often than not, wood is hard to obtain.
क्योंकि हमें गवर्नमेंट से जो है बहुत कम पेड़ मिलते हैं, ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा एक पेड़ मिल पाता है और पुराने मकान के अनुसार अगर हम बनाएं तो पुराने मकान में तो कम से कम जो है 5-6 पेड़ लगे होंगे और गवर्नमेंट जो है उतना दे नहीं पाती है।
यहाँ पर लकड़ी हर साल फ्री ग्रांट के रूप में और उससे अधिक अगर उनकी आवश्यकता है तो प्रति डिमांड के रूप में मिलती है, जिससे उनकी जो आवश्यकता है वो पूरी हो जाती है।
Although there is a seeming resilience in the way the Garhwalis have rebuilt their shattered lives, it is apparent that psychological scars have far from healed. A sense of fear and fatalism pervades the region. After all, what happened in 91 could easily happen again.
The cheetah is reputed to be the fastest mammal on Earth, capable of running up to 100 kilometers an hour. But the cutting of forests and the spread of agricultural lands have caused its numbers to dwindle precariously, and today it is an endangered species. In Washington, D.C., the natural habitat of the cheetah is being replicated for an ambitious breeding program to save the declining population. Here is the report.
The cheetah. It is the fastest mammal on Earth. Experts believe it can run 100 kilometers an hour. The cheetah is also an endangered species. Loss of natural habitat and severe reproductive problems have reduced its numbers in the wild to 2,000. However, Intense efforts are underway to save this animal. The National Zoo in Washington, D.C. opened a new cheetah exhibit in the summer of 1992. The exhibit was designed to recreate the animal's natural habitat in Africa so that the cheetahs will behave as they do in the wild. Trained volunteers can observe those behaviors. Exhibit manager Stuart Wells says that they will use the data to decide the best time to breed them.
The behavior study that we're doing on the cheetah is unique in the sense that we're trying to pick up subtle behavioral changes in the cheetah, and when those changes occur, are they occurring when the female is in estrus? And based on those changes, based on the data that we've gathered, we construct a management plan that is designed to create those circumstances where the female is most receptive for breeding. So they're watching behaviors like treading and urine marking and rolling.
That's really just debris.
Scientists at the National Zoo are also studying ways to improve cheetah reproduction through the use of techniques such as artificial insemination. It is a difficult task because nearly all male cheetahs have low sperm counts and high frequency of abnormal sperm.
There's still a lot of dead ones that are non-motile, but the ones at least, in fact, that's an abnormal sperm right there.
Despite the problems, Dr. Joe Gilhoward says they are beginning to make real progress in breeding cheetahs and other endangered animals.
We found that after about 10 years of working on it and not giving up, we finally have developed the right way to collect semen, to process it, to even freeze the semen for long-term storage. And then just recently, after many years of research, we finally have had the artificial insemination technique successful in the cats and including the cheetahs.
3 cheetahs at 2 zoos in the southern U.S. state of Texas have given birth to healthy cubs after being artificially inseminated by Dr. Howard. Such success may play an important role in ensuring animals like the cheetah do not become extinct.